Hi everyone, welcome to day number 6. I wanted to share a little story to start with today. So when I was a kid, I loved sort of throwing, catching, kicking balls around. And then when I was 8 or 9, I started to play soccer. And I realized pretty quickly that I was really crap with my left foot. So what I did was, I remember this distinctly. I went out the backyard of mum and dad's place, took a soccer ball with me. We had a big bank out there, and I proceeded to kick the ball against the bank and retrieve it with only my left foot for about 2 or 3 hours. I kicked it off the ground, I kicked it out of my hands, I drop kicked it. I completely sucked to start with, but I just kept doing it until I felt like I had some sort of coordination with it. And then obviously when I went to soccer practice or I went to the park with my friends, I was able to do that skill at least a little bit, and then I progressively got better at it. And what I wanted to talk about was this idea, this mindset of a child when they come to acquiring a skill or doing something that they want to do. Because play is a child's life. Children don't train. They just play. And as adults, we tend to we lose the sense of what play is. We think that it's frivolous or silly or it's just games. But for a child, it's their whole life. And the physical and the emotional, mental benefits of approaching things like this, like we do when we're children, is so profound. As adults, we tend to compartmentalize things a little bit. We look as movement as exercise that we need to do, but we lose this perspective of play. And for me, there's 3 stages of play. There's the curiosity stage where I look at something, or I might be good at something and I feel an urge to try it. Then you've got the exploration phase where you're sort of figuring out what this sort of means to you and whether you're any good at it or whether you'd like to keep going at it, whether it sticks, it like kind of connects with you. And then you've got the practice phase. And the practice phase is the longest one. It's the one where we suck, we learn how good or bad we are, not everything's rosy, and we just spend time doing this thing. And as adults, I think we tend to rush into the practice side of things, whether it's workouts or whether anything like that. We tend to rush to that phase without going through these first couple of stages. But the first few days of what we've been doing has been kind of the exploration phase. There hasn't been a lot of pushing. So today, I want you to think a little bit more about treating some of this stuff as practice. And all I'm going to ask you to do is do it for a period of time and really stick at it. Whether you suck at it or not, doesn't really matter. So that's basically our goal for today, is to practice and spend time, a good amount of time doing this stuff, and just see how it feels afterwards. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so our something on the ground is going to be a little sequence, okay, to start with. And what I would like you to do is you can use a timer, like just on your phone, or you can find a song that's this specific kind of length of time and just do it for that. And you're just going to work your way through the sequence for that period of time. I'll show you some different ways you can make it harder or easier, but the idea is we're practicing and we're seeing what the effects are of doing this for a period of time. Now, after I've taken you through the sequence, I'm going to give you another couple of options to sort of play with things a little bit more. But I'm going to ask you to do it for 5 minutes. Okay? So you're going to see if you can stick to this for 5 minutes. Great for kids because the idea is, can you actually keep the attention for that long? I'd want you to think about your intensity. So measure your intensity in regards to your breath. If you have no problems with nasal breathing, you want to shut your mouth and only breathe through your nose this entire sort of sequence. If you're starting to need to breathe in your mouth, you're working a little bit hard, so just slow down and take it a little bit easier. We're not trying to push into the super hard kind of level. We're working a little bit more on endurance as opposed to getting our heart rate up too much. And the sequence, again, you're going to have to kind of adapt it to what you can do, which is absolutely fine. So here we go. We're going to base it again on the deep squat. So again, like I talked about on the day one, your deep squat might be here, your deep squat might be up here. It doesn't matter. Just work into whatever positions you can manage. And we're going to work three different support parts. So when we're on the ground, there's only really 3 positions we can go in. We can support ourselves on our feet. We can support ourselves with our hands in front of us. We can support ourselves to the side, and we can support ourselves to the back. And that's all the sequence is. So you're going to go from a squat here to supporting ourselves at the front. Now, if I take my hands further away from my feet, I'd load my hands more, okay? So you just work with whatever you want to do. If I push back here, more of my weight's on my feet. And so we go from the squat, support ourselves at the front, and then lower ourselves onto the floor, okay? Then we come back up, we come back into the squat. Then we're going to go onto our side. So hand out to the side. Again, I can come all the way up, which is a lot more load on my shoulder and my arm, or I can stay in closer where the load's on my feet, and I'm going to go down onto my side. Then I come back up again, back into the squat, and down onto my other side. And then the last one, you probably worked it out, I come back into my squat, and then I support myself at the back. And again, just like on the side, further my hands are away from my feet, the more load there is, the load changes. And then you're going to come down onto your back. Back up, so this way so you can see, into a squat, okay? So it's onto our front support, lie down, onto a side support, lie down, other side, lie down, behind us, lie down, okay? Once you've gone all the way through that, you just keep repeating it until you get to the time limit. Okay, so task number 2, exactly the same sequence, exactly the same period of time, but this time, and this, you might need to test this out a little bit, is you're going to fill your mouth with water. Now you're only going to be able to breathe through your nose, okay? I haven't done this one with kids yet, but I would love to hear how it goes. Maybe do it not on a precious floor. So your goal is to run through 5 minutes, that whole sequence, without losing the water in your mouth, okay? And then the last task is, you can do this with the water or without the water, with the nasal breathing without it, is you shut your eyes and you're going to run through the same thing. So there's 3 different ways. You've got the sequence by itself, sequence with water, sequence with your eyes shut, or sequence with water and your eyes shut, okay? Give that a go. That's your little endurance practice task for today. The next one's going to be a little game on the floor. Good luck. Okay, so our little task, or a little game this morning, a little partner game. I'm going to get my lovely assistant in a sec. Now again, with this goal of practice, you're going to set a timer. Now this one's a little bit more challenging, so I would recommend something like 60 seconds, or for a good challenge, 2 or 3 minutes, okay? Of one person doing the leading and one person doing the following. Now, I can't remember whether I talked about this before, but when you're playing these partner games, the person who's leading is the most important person, okay? Because you're observing what this other person can do and can't do, and you want to just challenge them at a level that's hard, a little bit hard for them. If you go too hard, it's just going to ruin the game. If you go too easy, it's also going to ruin the game. So the person who's leading is super, super important, and it's really important that you do watch and you kind of see what your partner can and can't do. If you're a parent with your kids, it's awesome to be able to look at them and see what they can and can't do. because then you're starting to be like, oh, what if they can do this? What if they can do this? Oh, that one's a little bit hard, I'll come back a little bit. So then you're starting to learn how to be a coach, okay? Real simple, we kind of did a version of this the other day with the stick, and you can do this with the tip of a stick, you can do it with a ball in your hand. You want an object kind of that's external to what your body is. But essentially you're going to get in a ground position and a front support position, and you're going to follow with one hand. So you're going to be on three points of support, not four, all right? And the other point is going to be following around and articulating around and challenging your balance, your core, your shoulders, everything, okay? So between 1 minute, I would say for starters, to up to 3 minutes with this. And you can put your knees on the ground if you need to. Don't feel like you have to support your entire body weight on just your feet and your hand. So Jess is going to be the one with the ball. I'm going to be the person being led. So the rules are, you have to be in a position here. You are allowed to move around like this. You want to try and keep your feet and your hand that you're supporting yourself on relatively still. So I'm having to move my body around this position as opposed to constantly changing my foot and my hand position. Alright, so you got the idea with that one. Something on our feet game today is you're going to need a practice ball for this one. It's pretty hard to do with anything else. So there's so many things you can do with them, and kids love swinging them around and knocking stuff over. So if you can make one of those or have one of those, that's awesome. I'll give you another little option if you've just got some objects you can put on the floor. So first thing with the practice ball is the person who's using it wants to get comfortable with how it operates. So just getting comfortable in their hand. So being able to swing it around, okay, in different directions. Can I swing it parallel with the floor? Can I swing it parallel with the wall? Can I swing it to the side? Okay, so am I able to actually control? And then the other one is I want to be able to let the ball get further out and closer. So while I'm swinging it, I need to have the ability, and this is what I'm using this hand for, to kind of let it out a little bit or draw it in a little bit. Okay. The biggest piece of advice I can give is start slow. Everyone, especially when I give these to kids, they just want to like swing it around and just try and smack crap around with it. So start really slow. So all I'm going to do is I'm the person on the ground, and I'm going to get the ball moving parallel with the floor, and I'm basically creating a space in front of me. And what Jess is going to do is she's going to stand outside the space, she's going to step into the space and then back, just with that rhythm. So step in, step out, step in, step out. And the goal is to try and get inside that space on every revolution of the ball, okay? So we'll start with, she's done this before, she rates herself as quite professional. All right, off you go. Nice. So that's kind of like the real, just getting into that rhythm. Now what I can do with the ball is I can make that space get bigger or smaller depending on how much string I allow to go out. So I can bring Jess in closer to me, okay, and make her go a little bit faster, or I can let the string out a little bit and then I'm forcing her to come back. Now if I want to make a challenge, what I can do is I can put an object or a piece of tape on the floor where she has to touch, okay? And if she's standing further away, she's obviously going to have to step further to get in to touch that little object or bit of tape. So that's one version of it. The other version is, rather than me attacking her feet and her legs with the ball, I can attack other parts of her body. So I can aim for hips, so I'm forcing her try and think a little bit more about how her pelvis is working, or I can attack her head a little bit more. Okay, so with that one, again, this idea of practicing it, chuck a timer on, see if they can do that 2 to 3 minutes. They're going to be pretty whacked out at the end of that. So can I keep my concentration and keep my feet moving as I start to breathe more? As things become, I get a little bit more tired, can I kind of stick to it without getting hit by the ball? And don't be scared about getting hit by the ball. Getting hit by the ball means you're actually trying stuff, okay? But again, it's a collaboration between the two people, the person who's leading with the ball and the person who's giving the action a go. But practice, time. Give yourself more time than you think you want to do it for. See if you can stick at it. So this one, I'm going to create a space on the floor, okay? It wants to be probably about a meter diameter of objects. So you can use anything. You could use cans of food, you could use tennis balls, you could use socks. Although you want it to be something that has a bit of impact if you touch it. So if you're using like bits of clothes, you don't really feel it. So obviously I use Jenga blocks. So I'm going to create a little space, and I'm just going to position these about probably 30 centimeters apart. And this one's similar to the hoop wrestling we did the other day. So my beautiful assistant is going to come in. So the rules with this one are, my feet are not allowed to leave the floor. So any movements I make, okay, my foot has to be connected to the floor. Obviously I can do this, toes are still on, but I'm not allowed to lift my foot, okay? So there wants to be a little bit of practice just to and fro. So once again, our hands are linked together, like Mercy. We need to obviously stay within this area of working. If we come out here, the game obviously is over. So, rules are, if I knock a stick over, I lose that round, we replace it. If anything else touches the floor, so a hand goes down or a knee goes down, you also lose. You ready? So I would start nice and gently, and just get so Jess is overworking. So just get a feel for the space. Oh, Jess lifted your foot up. So the first part of it is just getting used to moving with your feet on the floor, okay? And then once you start getting an idea of things, then you can start trying to manipulate the other person a little bit. Okay? So give that one a crack. Alright, so something to learn today is going to be a little bit completely different from what we've been doing. This one is about learning to let go and be soft under pressure. Okay? Now, you can use, I've been thinking about what you could use for this if you don't have Jenga blocks. You could use any kind of block. So like Lego is probably a little bit light, but any kind of things, they need to be square or parallel so you can stack things on top of each other. Okay, I'll let you try and be creative with that. Now the idea is, one of you can use any of these blocks. One of you stands here. So I want my arms out, my feet are not allowed to move, nothing is allowed to move. I start with 2 blocks, one in each hand, and Jess is going to slowly build towers on either one. My job is to not drop them. You want to say. That was Jess's fault, not mine. Now I haven't given Jess any instruction and she's gone to the absolute hardest ones that I could hold straight away.
It's because you're so talented.
So, you get the picture. So over time, my arms are going to start feeling heavy, okay? What I want to try and do, one is I've got to try and keep the muscles soft, because if I try and keep everything too tense, everything's going to start to shake. Jess managed to build the hardest possible towers imaginable, but you could do something like this. So if you held the blocks like that, you could build like this, which is a little bit easier. You could also build like that. Basically, get creative. See if you can get to 2 minutes holding it out there. So the more rigid you are, the more you're going to shake, the more likely you are to knock them off. The softer you can be and the more calm you can be with your breathing, the higher the towers are going to go and the longer you're going to be able to hold them. So that's your something to learn for today. Be soft under pressure. And so with the object sort of wrestling, the foot position one, again, time. So give yourself 3 to 5 minutes with that one. It's not super taxing, but can I keep my concentration up for that long? Because then we start to see the benefits, or whether we can actually stick attentively to a task for that period of time.